So
And
if,
hot water, right?
well, hot, comfortably, whatever you're comfortable with. So I've already got what I have, and I'll hold it up to show you what I got for these. I used to do these classes in person. And so I just went to a restaurant supply store and I ordered like a dozen of these. So this
Okay.
is what I use because they're big enough that you can, I have big feet and you can fit both of your feet in here. Alice has a storage bin. Alice, show it you guys. See Alice.
Oh, great. Rubbermaid.
So if you've got some, hey Leslie, hey Ariel. So if you've got something like that, you can use it. If you don't have this handy, I'll tell you in a second how you can do just a hot towel, hot wet towel.
Okay,
So
no, I got a bucket. I'm good.
yeah, if
I'm
you got
good.
any kind of
Yeah.
bucket, and
Yes.
then comfortably warm. And if we're sitting and cooling our jets for a minute, your water might cool down a little bit. So again, be really careful when you're doing all this stuff. So I've got a towel here. I don't want you to get out with wet feet and slip on the floor because we don't need a disaster happening during our relaxation foot class, right? So just be really cognizant of your setup. And if you're new, some of you ladies have been Zooming with me for a couple of years. If you're new to like doing a Zoom exercise class, what I would recommend is if you're going to put yourself here, put all of your goodies in front of you. Because again, I don't want you to stand up and then like step back and trip on something and step. So make sure everything that you're be messing with is in front of you. Okay, so if you have a bucket, I've already filled mine with water, but you're not late. If you're just tuning in, you're right on time. You could go fill up your bucket with some kind of warm-ish water. Yeah. And then we're going to hang in the bucket for, I don't know, maybe about 10, 15 minutes. And like I said, when I was doing these in person, what I would do, Alice said she's been already cooking her feet. So hers is starting to cool down a little. So you could get up and add some more hot water. When I would do these in person, I would come around with a tea kettle and add some more hot water as we went on. So if you have one of these and you want to go take a second and fill it with hot water, that's your next project. If you don't have one of these guys, you could take a big, thick bath towel or beach towel and get it really hot with hot water as hot as you can stand, and then wring it out as much as you can. So that's your other option for heat if you don't have a bucket handy or something to soak your feet. So you get a really hot, wet towel and then wring it out really good and then wrap your feet in the hot, wet towel. Yeah. So go take a second and get whatever setup you're going to do. I'm going to stay out of the bucket for a minute and give myself another couple minutes and see if anybody's tuning in late. So I don't have to get up and get down with wet feet. And then the other thing, let's see, while I'm doing my monologue, you may have a bucky nearby, what I call a bucky. Do I have any of my buckies? Did I put them all away? A rice bag or some type of a grain filled bag. I don't know where my bucky went. I usually have one up here. So those are really nice that you can put in the microwave. So if you've got one of those, like if you don't want to have wet feet for whatever reason. And then these little jebbies, these are good for if you're traveling, like if you have something that hurts and you know you want to use some heat. There's different companies that make these, but this is a one-time use thing. And some of them you crack them to open them. Some of them they just, once you open the package, they heat up. It's like those little hand warmers. If you've ever been skiing and have a hand warmer in your pocket, same idea. So this is a nice way to do heat if you don't have a bucket, if you don't have whatever. And then if you have Epsom salts handy, before you add these, I'm going to caution you against, if you're doing a whole tub bath, you could put in like a cup or 2 large handfuls. If you're doing just your feet, maybe start with a tablespoonful. So I had a girlfriend that soaked her feet and she put the same amount that she would have put in for a tub bath. And I'll just say she experienced some negative consequences because it is also used as a laxative. And
Wow.
your skin is highly absorptive.
I always wondered because it's so subtle, but I'm, might, notice it.
It's like anything, a little bit can be good and too much can be bad. So anyway, just know that if you're going to put some Epsom salts, start with a spoonful or a handful or so. And then you can settle in and we'll do a little soaky. Okay, so while we're getting settled, I'm just going to keep an eye on the. Actually, there's not a waiting room with this meeting. I think I set it up so you can just come on in. So I don't got to do nothing. I'm just going to hang out and soak my feet. You are welcome to be muted the whole time. You're welcome to be off camera. I'm recording this, but I'm pinned. So even if you talk, nobody will see you. And then when I go back to the recording, I can always chop out the bit. So you can remain completely anonymous and still participate to the level that you wish. Sometimes it's nice to just be off camera, especially if it's on the weekend. You don't feel like putting on mascara, you know. So your choice, on or off camera. And then your choice to be muted or unmuted. If you do have something going on, like a barking dog in your house or something, you can mute just so we're not having a lot of background noise. Yeah. And then I mentioned the gear. If you have some towels handy, always a good idea, maybe a hand towel or a thick towel. We watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe again the other night. Always carry your towel, always bring a towel. And then after a while, after we finish our soak, we are going to use a small ball, massage ball, tennis ball, whatever you have handy. And then theraband or towel you can use. So while we're hanging out soaking, who would like to contribute by telling me why you're here today? What were you expecting from this class? Do you have any foot pain? Do you have any problems you're trying to solve? Or did you just want to have a nice, relaxing something for your feet?
I was just hoping to relax.
Ariel wants to relax.
Good advice.
This
I'm gonna
is
work on my
my
shoulders and my.
Ariel's got a
ninth.
bucky on her shoulders and something on her feet. And Karen, what are you saying?
Okay. This is my first best day in months. I woke up with less pain, less swelling, and better everything. I did my workout early. I've been for 2 laps around Glendevere, where I'm good.
She's feeling good. I love it.
Everything's coming
That's
together.
wonderful.
I love it.
I did my workout right before this too.
Yay. All right, Miss
And
Leslie,
you'd be
what were
so
you
proud
going
of
to
me.
say?
I even worked up a.
Was that?
Oh, I even worked up a little sweat doing my Pilates push-ups.
I love it. I'm telling you, those Pilates push-ups, they're sneaky. And then by the third round, you're like, oh, this is challenging. All right,
and then
Alice.
you go to do side plank and you're like, I'm a little wobbly. Must have been those Pilates push-ups.
All
I
right,
gotta hide the balls from my dog because he thinks it's playtime.
Is he there in the room with you?
Yeah, he's right here on my lap. Well, yeah, he's right here on my lap.
Got my water too hot to begin, so I'm just waiting for it to cool just a degree or two.
Go get 2 ice cubes out of the freezer and stick them.
Okay. That's better.
All right, Alice or Leslie, y'all have anything to report, hopes or dreams for today?
Just want to give my feet some more. I've been walking more lately, so they need it. Oh, what a cute dog.
There he is.
Dog.
Oh, there he is.
Aw. Is it a whippet?
He's an Italian Greyhound.
Oh, okay. Similar body shape.
Yeah.
Cute.
Renzo, isn't that his name? Renzo?
Yep. Renzo the Wonder Dog. That's what my mom calls him.
Aw.
And then she also calls him the handsome grandson.
I hope she doesn't have any
grandsons.
Does she have human grandsons?
She does. She's got 5 of them.
But Renzo is the handsome one.
But Renzo's the handsome one. 5 human ones and one dog one.
Well, I'm excited to do this class. I am always up for a foot soak and anything good feeling stuff for my feet. And of course, I love to visit with you, lovely ladies. And I've done versions of this over the years. I think the last one I did was 2020. I think it was in the before times at when I had that commercial space over on Malden. I think that was the last. I think it was February 2020, as a matter of fact. Oh my gosh, right before everything shut down. So I'm very excited. And I kept thinking I was gonna I have an old tired Petty that's been on there for almost a month, and I kept thinking, oh, I'm gonna redo my toenails. And I never did, but that's okay. I'm here anyway with my half painted toenails. And so I don't really have foot issues. I have pretty wide, spreadable toes. I do occasionally get some plantar fasciitis type stuff that kind of comes and goes, where I just get some tightness in my arch and a little bit of heel pain. I know that I have a weaker side. I was talking with the ladies this morning about tomorrow's the 7-year anniversary of my back surgery. Oh my gosh, can y'all believe? And so where I had a disc issue, Karen, I don't know if you know about this, was on the left side. And so I've got some residual nerve stuff, and I can just, when you look at these calf muscles, this one is smaller. So there's just some stuff down the left side of my body that's probably going to be something I deal with for the rest of my life, but I don't really have bunions or hammer toes. Does anybody in this group today have foot issues? Have you had bunions, hammer toes, plantar fasciitis, foot pain?
So I'll volunteer that I've been going through something for the past 12 months, and in the last 8 months, my feet have been extremely swollen, and on the top behind the toes, but and underneath, ball of the foot all the way across. I've been buying bigger shoes. It's been difficult even to walk or get up. I'm slower, but today I could go up on my toes, which is amazing. And also, Anne, I did my plank barefooted. That's a first. But I'm watching my feet have changed in their shape. It's kind of like the opposite of a bunion. It's the outer below the little toe. The bone is protrude. It's weird what's going on. So feet are not very pretty anyway. But I want the mobility back. And the swelling today seems less than it has been for months. So I'm doing a combination of herbs and acupuncture, chiropractic, and massage in all of this. And I'm on my road to recovery. I know it.
I love this story of success.
Yeah.
So tightness, pain, mobility issues, and they're already improving just with a little bit of stuff a lot of stuff you've been doing. That is, I've heard this called a bunionette or a Taylor's bunion. When Karen's talking about when this outside bone, and it looks like the bone is sticking out. So a regular bunion, it's usually on the big toe side. And so what people often think of it is as an inflamed joint, or that the bone is actually sticking out. Oftentimes what has happened is your toes have been squeezed together in narrow shoes. And when I say narrow shoes, almost every conventional footwear that you buy at any kind of a regular shoe store, running shoe, dress shoe, has a narrow toe box that pinches your toes together. And so it's actually that your big toe has started to migrate this way, and that joint sticks out. So the traditional solution was a bunion surgery, where they would go in and shave off the outside of this bone, when the problem was that your feet aren't able to do this, right? So can you picture if my toes were all scrunched together versus having that ability? Now, if you're in super duper pain, like it's really painful to have painful joints and bunions, and some surgeon says this is the solution, you're like, I'll take any solution if it's going to solve my problem. Get in there, right? The other thing I've seen happen is they will fuse the big toe so that it is straightened out. And I'm going to I'll go ahead and talk about your big toe mobility has a lot to do with your gait, a healthy gait. So being able to move and flex your big toe. So if you have some kind of a surgery where they fixed a joint, like a toe fusion, spinal fusion, that may have solved that immediate issue of the bunion. And it's also one thing that you do can affect other things. So I want to be really careful when we talk about stuff today that I'm not bashing podiatry or surgeons or someone who's had these procedures. What I would be interested in learning more about and knowing more about is what are some things that I could do on my own to improve my foot strength, to improve my mobility and release my pain. And then if it does get to the point where I need to have some kind of foot surgery or I need to have some kind of intervention, like maybe orthotics are a good temporary solution. Maybe there is a bigger thing that you could do to get you out of this pain. But a lot of times it's awareness of your feet, awareness of how you are moving your body, and then building strength and mobility. Yep. What do you think? All right, so we've given ourselves a few minutes to soak. I put my dang clipboard all the way over there, and now I can't see it. I'm going to hop out and grab my little clipboard. I made some notes about what all I want to talk about today. And so...
Can I share something I just discovered?
I would love it.
So I had to hide the tennis ball, right, for my dog. And so I put it on my hip that's been sore, and it's like working as like a massage. I'm using my own body weight to massage my hip. It feels really good.
Ariel, she's got her feet in the tub. She's got her Bucky on her shoulder. She's got her tennis ball on her hip and her doggy on her lap.
Yep, and then I can just kind of massage around to get to the spot that's tight on my hip. That feels really good.
So along the lines of your shoulder, Bucky, you call it, I have a weighted blanket. I threw it over my lap, which is working as keeping the heat in. It's a sauna for my feet bucket.
Nice.
I love it. Weighted
wonderful.
blanket. Okay, let's see. I went over Zoom protocol and safety. Oh yeah, we're going to do some stuff that I'm going to give you options to stay in the chair. If you're on the couch, you can hang on the couch. If you have an available floor space to lay flat and or come up to standing. So think about that when we start to move around. What I'm going to end up doing is just sliding my bucket out of the way so that I can come and lay on the yoga mat. But if you're like, no, I just want to hang out on the couch today, you can do all this, what we're going to be doing seated. Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to go through my anatomy. Let's talk about that. Let's take a little look-see at our feet. Now you might even have a little wrinkly skin going on now, maybe some prune skin if you've been in the tub for 10 or 15 minutes. Look at your feet, look at your toes, and just notice your feet. Are they narrow? Are they wide? Do you have space between each toe? Does your left foot look like your right foot? Do they look similar? And we're not looking for what's wrong necessarily, but just notice what you notice. What kind of information can you gather from looking at your feet? So you have 26 bones, 33 joints, hundreds of muscles, tendons, ligaments, nerves, blood vessels, and these link all the way from your feet up to your heart, your lungs, your brain. Think about that information highway going all the way from the tips of your toes to your brain. Oh, it's amazing. Your feet absorb 5 times of your body weight in pressure every day. Holy cow, our poor little feet. So think about all that our feet do for us. Yeah. What would you consider? I called this workshop Healthy Feet. What would you consider a healthy foot? What would that consist of? What would be some qualities of a healthy foot? Any guesses?
Maybe as much time without shoes.
Can you walk barefoot? How much time during the day do you have shoes off? What about a pain-free foot or a relatively pain-free? That'd be a sign of a healthy foot. Mobility, Karen was talking about that, being able to get up on her toes in a plank. Strength, being able to articulate your toes. Can you spread them? Can you flatten them? Can you curl them? Can you lift one at a time? We're going to practice all this stuff here after a while. Being able to spread your toes is kind of what I want to focus on today. And what about, I talk a little bit about this in the other classes, but I just want to touch on like my very most, so we do have to wear shoes sometimes. You can't be barefoot all the time unless you're Ann working out of your living room and teaching Pilates classes. So if you go outside, you got to put shoes on. What do you think the number one quality or tip you could look for in a healthy shoe would be? Any guesses? Healthy shoe? Ann's top pick.
Arch support.
Oh, I'm glad you said arch support. Why do you think that's true, Leslie?
Because when you're wearing shoes, especially at least for me, wearing shoes on hard surfaces, that's where the risk is. If there's too much flex of my arch, like wearing hard hiking boots on a concrete sidewalk versus wearing soft shoes for a walk in the woods. That's where I really noticed the difference.
My favorite thing you said was that last part, a supportive shoe on the sidewalk and soft shoes in the woods. Did you mean a more flexible sole without the arch support when you're walking on softer surfaces?
Well, you can do everything. You might have a hard shoe on a soft surface because it's going to be slippery, it's muddy, or you might have a soft shoe on a hard surface. But the combination of hard shoe and hard surface is the one that's risky for me if I don't have good arch support.
So in your experience, if you're walking on a sidewalk, you need an arch support. If you're going to be hiking on a hard surface, you might even need a hiking boot that comes up your ankle.
Yeah. I don't do that very often, but yeah.
I like it. I like this, go on.
I was going to say, when the weather's nice, I'll wear a softer shoe, more like a running shoe style. But if I'm wearing a hard sole shoe, it can't be a cheap hiking boot. It has to be a hiking boot with a good insole, some cushion and the arch support. Or my feet will pay and my lower back will pay very often.
So you've noticed if you're going to be out doing certain things, you need something with some arch support. Otherwise, you're going to be in pain later.
Yep.
So the thing I was going to say was a wide toe box. So that's the biggest thing that I look for in what I consider a healthy shoe. These, remember those toe shoes that came out about 10 or 15 years ago so the minimal shoe became real popular. And of course, we can't do anything moderately. We have to either be hard right, hard left. That's how we are as people. So everybody started throwing out their shoes and they went and bought these slippers with toe places, and then they went from that and they started running in these shoes with no support. And then everybody got injured and sued the company because they're like, so I don't prescribe or recommend any specific shoe so much as to say, what are you using it for? What are you padding around the house? Maybe a little pair of toe socks or a slipper is appropriate. Maybe something to keep you from slipping. What are you doing? Are you working construction where you're in a warehouse all day working on concrete? You're probably going to need different footwear than if you have an office job where you're mostly seated. And so Leslie talked about different shoes being applicable for different things. What are you doing in those shoes? Ariel talked about being barefoot at home. I have a variety of shoes that I wear, but I do try to be barefoot as much as possible. And the more you can strengthen those muscles in your feet, the less you will need that support, right? Now, it's one thing if you're going to go for a 8-hour hike, or if you're going to work a long shift in a warehouse, for what most of us are doing, maybe a short hike or standing intermittently during the day. But that's definitely something, and you're not, like I said, you're not going to find that on most regular shoes, the ability to spread your toes inside your shoe. Okay, any other thoughts on shoes, footwear, all that other good stuff? Yep, Alice is putting her sweatshirt on. If you end up cooling off, be sure to get a shirt or a top or something if you need more layers. So I feel like we've been soaking a long time. If you're ready to take your feet out of your thingy, now go slow, easy does it. You might have your towel handy. I've got a little towel here that I can just put my feet on. And just take a second here and scoochie out of your water. And then really carefully move your thing out of the way. So we don't want to trip on our little bucket. So I've got my towel, so I'm just going to slide my whole thing forward. But before you do that, you can dry your feet off. Oh, that feels so nice to just do a little soak, even just for a few minutes. Okay, so towel off your little feetsies. Get them all nice and dry. And then once again, take a look at your feet and your toes. Notice what you notice. I was talking about spreading your toes. Are you able to spread your feet out, your toes out? And if you aren't able to spread them and this feels comfortable, you could take your fingers and wedge them in between each toe and see if you can help your feet do this. Spread your toes out. Yeah. See what that feels like to have your toes spread out nice and wide. And then just notice, can you lift and lower your toes? Can you lift and lower just your big toe? Can you put your big toe down and lift your other toes? Can you lift one toe at a time? Oh, that's a serious brain exercise. You could lift all 10 toes and come down pinky, fourth, third, second, first. You could lift all 10 toes and come down big toe, second, third, fourth, fifth. Ah, man, that's hard to do. All right, let's do a little massaging of the feet. So we're continuing our little release campaign with some foot massage. If this feels comfortable to have your leg crossed over your hip like this, I'm going to grab a hold of my feet and just start marching with my thumb from my big toe. I'm going to give a little mushy and come down my arch from my big toe to my heel. If this doesn't feel good to have your foot in this position, just picture yourself doing this. And I'm going to show you how to do this with a ball too in a second. So none of this should hurt your knees. I've now made my way down the middle of my arch. I'm just going to give a little mushy and a mushy, not real big deal, not super hard mushies, just easy does it mushies. And then I can come way out here to my pinky toe land and do a little mushy. I'm just basically squeezing in with my thumb and mushy. Oh, and let's do all of this on one foot, and then we'll take a little rest break and do second side. Now, again, depending on your hip and knee mobility, you might be able to grab and mush down the top of your feet. And I'm kind of in this little valley in between my first and second metatarsal, and I can go all the way up here to the ankle, that little soft squishy spot where my foot meets my lower leg. And then I'm going to go in between second and third metatarsal and just see if there's any wiggle room in between those little bones that come all the way up the middle of my foot. Yep. Smushing and smushing and smushing and smushing and smushing. And then I can come out here in between my pinky toe and my fourth toe, smushing and smushing and smushing and smushing and smushing. Yeah. And then you can grab the tops and bottoms of your toes and pry apart the top of your foot. So I'm pulling my hands away from each other. Yeah, prying apart. Again, if this doesn't feel good, just sit tight. We're going to do some more stuff in a minute. So any of this doesn't feel like a good position to be in, just hang out and breathe. Now I can pry apart the bottom part of my feet. Oh, and none of this should hurt. If you get to something and you're like, ow, ow, stop and ask me for help. So I'm spreading the arch of my foot by gently pulling apart, real gently. Easy does it. Yep. And then we'll work our toes. If this feels comfortable, I can grab a hold of my big toe and I'm just going to pinch him in between my thumb and index finger and pinch and wiggle and pinch and wiggle and pinch and wiggle. So I'm flexing and extending my big toe. Oh, my toe's going cracky, cracky. So you might notice some crunching and cracking and stuff moving around. That's totally cool. if you feel stuff cracking and popping. But again, this shouldn't feel like, ow, this is painful. Now I'm going to grab a hold of my big toe still, hold my middle of my foot, middle of my arch, and do a little circle. And so again, if you do have bunions or tightness in the front of your foot, just go real easy. It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. It could be a tiny little circle. I'm going to circle the other way. So I'm gently pulling and circling that big toe and just anchoring my foot with my other hand. Now I'm going to move down to my second toe, and I'm going to see if I can do the same thing. Pinchy, pulley, flex, and extend. So I'm just grabbing my second toe, pulling it towards the bottom of my foot, and pulling it towards the top of my foot. And you can use whatever hand feels more comfortable to grab and pull and grab and toe. And then we got our little circles. Can you circle just that second toe? And circle. Yep. And then I move down to my third toe, wiggle in a wiggle. And just notice sometimes you might get to a toe and it doesn't have a lot of movement in that second joint. It's like a little stiff toe. And that's okay. Just let it be stiff for today. This type of work, now I'm doing my circle. If you did a little bit of this, so you could pick one of these exercises to do every day. You could say, okay, today I'm going to do my toe circles. Tomorrow I'm going to do my foot squeeze. Now I made it to my fourth toe. And if you've ever broken a toe, you might feel that there's some stiffness or some scar tissue. So we're just noticing. Notice what you notice. All this should feel really good. Now I'm doing circle and circle, and circle and circle and circle. And then I made it all the way down to my little pinky toe. I'm going to flex and extend and flex and extend and flex and extend. Yep. And then wiggle and wiggle and wiggle and wiggle. And wiggle and wiggle and wiggle. So part of this is awareness, noticing what you notice. What's going on with my feet? What do I notice? Now this one, you might be able to either get your index finger in between your big toe and your second toe, index finger in between big toe and second toe. You might be able to put all of your fingers in between your toes. Oh, when's the last time you did something like this? So weird. So that might not be in the cards today, especially that little toe and the fourth toe. But if you're able to get your hands, it's like you're shaking hands with yourself. If you can get, oh, it's so weird. That's okay. And then you can do easy wiggly forward and back, side to side. So that could be a little project, is slowly working. You might just be able to get the tip of your finger right now. And then over time, you might be able to get to where you're knuckle to knuckle. Getting your fingers between your toes. Yep. Yep, yep. And then you could play with a little twist. So I could grab the front of my foot, the toe end of my foot, and then I could grab the arch and twist and twist. And if you need a break or you need to come out of this position, just take a little rest break, and you can always watch what we're doing. So that's why I'm recording this. Then you've got it to refer back to. So if anything, if your knee or hip starts hurting, or you just don't like this position, or you don't like something we're doing, just take a rest and we'll come to something else in a second. Okay, so we got easy, twisty, easy, twisty. And then see if you can come around to the back of your heel and pinch your heel and work your way up your Achilles and up into your lower leg and calf. So I'll show from the side too, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm pinching my heel and pinching up that little tendon and up into my calf muscle. We'll do about 3 passes, pinchy and pinchy. And just notice when you do this little pinchy, does anything in there feel tight or sore? Or what do you notice? And then let's take a little rest. If you're comfortable resting both feet on the ground, notice what you notice. Notice how your feet came to rest on the ground. Compare left and right feet. So we should have done that whole thing on one foot. That was my goal, to work one foot and then notice first foot and second foot. And is there any difference between the left and right feet now? Does any spot on that foot feel heavier or longer or flatter? Yeah, let's do that whole thing on side number 2. And so y'all can comment whenever you want. You can keep yourself muted, whatever. If you have questions, for sure, stop me and ask me questions. So what did we do? We did marchy up the top with a little squeezy. No, we did the bottom first, didn't we? Okay, so we did a little squeezy, 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 squeezy. And you could do this with your fingertips or your thumb. So I'm squeezing up the bottom of my foot. So this is one way to do it with my fingertips. I could also flip my hands around and pinch up the bottom or press up the bottom with my thumbs. Yeah. Now this foot is one that tends to be tighter on me. So when I got to this one spot, I was like, oh, that's a little tight in there. And that's okay. We're not going to worry about hammering away on any one spot. This is sort of a general overview. Like all the way down to your heel. And then come up to the top of your foot, also known as the dorsal side, the top that faces the ceiling. And I'm marching all the way up in between this little valley in between my first and second metatarsal. So my idea is that we just breeze through a lot of good stuff today. And then you could have some fun stuff to play with over the coming weeks or months. When we're doing this kind of stuff, but myofascial release or self-massage or whatever you want to call this, sometimes it can be tempting when you get in this spot. You're like, oh, let me just get in there and tear it up. And there's a little sweet spot, right? Of like, oh, I'm going to spend a couple minutes doing something versus I'm going to go in there so hard, I'm going to make things worse. We were trying to find that little sweet spot today. So if in doubt today, do a little less than whatever you think would be like the maximum. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Let's go ahead and do our twist. I'm going to grab the front of my foot and my arch and rotate like you're wringing out a towel. Twisty and twisty. Ooh, that one feels especially good today. So one hand goes back, one hand goes forward is what I mean by a twist. Wringing out your foot towel. And then we did a little party down each toe. I'm going to grab my big toe, give it a little pinch and a little pull. This toe's cracking and popping too. See, I should be doing this stuff every dang day. I forget, there's so many things we could be doing. Now you got your circle, and you could hold the rest of your foot still if you like. Circle. 4 or 5 of these each way. Circle and circle. Yeah. And then grab your second toe, pinchy, pulley, flex and extend. And breathe. And then we got our little circle and circle. So I'm just manipulating the second toe. Circles. And then we got our third toe. And then our circle and circle and circle. And then this fourth toe. Yeah, this one I'm pretty sure I broke years ago, this fourth toe. When I was in my 20s.
That brings to mind, in my childhood, I knew of a few friends through the years that broke a toe. And I always thought it was weird. Okay, when you break a toe, there's nothing they can do for it except wrap it to the next toe. But the person would always have trouble walking forevermore. You probably develop a lot of calcium buildup to protect it after that. But that's, yeah.
This is a good point, Karen. This brings me to an acute injury versus a chronic injury. So when your toe is broken, that is the solution. Yeah, they tape it to the other toe just to limit the movement. And that's the best thing to do when your toe is broken. So then 3 months, 6 months go by. Can you picture how if you had done this type of work on a broken toe or a healing foot to get some of that mobility back, how that could help you with and change your gait and change your walking? Yeah. Okay, now we got the little big toe wedgie. You might wiggle your finger or the tip of your finger between your first toe and your second toe. You might be able to shake hands with your foot and just see, is this foot any different than foot number 1? So yeah, we all have stuff going on, right? We've had injuries, accidents, surgeries, life happens. And so then what is appropriate care for during a time of injury? Rest, compression, making that joint, stabilizing that joint. And then what is appropriate care for the long term, right? Once you're out of that acute or inflamed state. I think that's important to remember. Like if someone's told you, well, you have to wear orthotics, like maybe you wear orthotics while your arches are healing. Maybe that's not a permanent solution. Okay, did we do our circles? I was just talking and doing this. So I did my circle of my whole foot and my whole ankle. Now what else? Pinchies. We got to do our pinchies. So you can't see me. I'll show from the side. I'm pinching up the sides of my heel, up my little Achilles, up into my calf muscles, pinchy. We'll do about 3 of those. Pinchy, 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 pinchy. So this could be some work too. If you're not used to doing this kind of massage, take a second and we do our little rest. Shake out your hand. Yeah, relax for a second. So if you didn't want to do this with your hands, this type of massage we were just doing, we do this one a lot in class. So I'm kind of assuming most people are familiar with this, but if you are not, I'll just quickly show. Again, I'm giving you kind of an overview today of all this stuff. I have these bouncy balls that I get at the kids' toy store for like $1. I love them. They're great. They're perfect. There are actual like melt balls and myofascial release. There's a lot of stuff out there. So some of you were talking about using a lacrosse ball. I think a lacrosse ball could work, but if you haven't done this in a long time or ever, maybe go easy. Tennis ball could be a nice choice for today. Now this one you can sit, and again, I'm just going to quickly show because I think most of y'all done this with me. And the same thing, I could do a little bit of lean onto, I'm back on foot number 1 now. And then I could back off. The way I like to do this a lot is standing. And we do this a lot in our classes as a warm up where I lean on my little thingy. And again, I'm just south of my big toe knuckle. I'm right about here. And then I do a little leany. I'm marching my way down to my heel. And a little leany. Yeah. And I'm giving myself maybe 40% of my weight to start. If you've done this on a regular basis, you could lean all of your weight onto that ball, but be nice to your foot. Easy does it. And then I'm just going to show this outside zone where I come down my pinky toe lane, leaning. And you can see how my tip of my metatarsal is popping up, that bone in the middle of my foot. And then I keep mushing. So that's what we want, is some mobility in our feet so that things can move. So you're not like a little horse's hoof where your foot and ankle is all one block of wood. We want no block of wood. We want movement, mobility. Yeah. Now this could feel nice too, to do a little roly, windshield washer, roly.
I just found this in my box. It says theraband foot roller. It was my mother's and I didn't know what it was used for, and I'm using it and it's wonderful.
Yeah, there's all kind of massage tools. I get these PT catalogs from time to time where they've got little things that are like as wide as your foot and they have these little nubbies. There's some balls that have little nubbies. Yeah, there's lots of things.
It's amazing.
Cool. Okay, now I've gotten to my tinier of the 2 balls. This one you'll really need a smaller ball, or even a rolled up towel could work, or a washcloth folded over. And basically I stuck the ball under my big toe and the rest of my toes are flat on the floor. So try that if you can find something. If you don't have one of these tiny balls, sometimes a rolled up washcloth could be a nice width or height or whatever. And then you can play with this one. You can lean a little bit forward. So I was talking about that big toe mobility and having the ability to flex your toe. You might be able to see how I can lift my big toe off the ball. Try that if you've got a little thing. And if you don't have something suitable for that today, just spread your toes out and see if you can lift your big toe and keep your other toes down. What? That might be a weird feeling if you're not used to doing stuff like that. And then take a little rest. So you could do that with each toe. You could put the ball under each toe, Press, rest. Yeah, I'm going to move on because we got bigger fish to fry. We got to get to some exercises here shortly. So now I'm going to mush I'm on my second foot. I'm mushing and mushing and mushing. So I'm giving maybe 50% of my weight, 40%. If this is your first time doing this in a long time. And I'm coming down this big toe lane, or this foot might be more or less sensitive, so I can mushy. If you get to an owie spot, back off. This is not a power through it kind of thing. This is like, okay, easy does it. And then you can roll circles forward and back, left and right, what I call the windshield washer. Yep. Now I'm going to do this big toe thing. So the bigger ball I have, this works for me because I have a lot of range of motion in that toe. But if you had a smaller ball or a rolled up washcloth or something just to elevate that big toe. Oh yeah, now this feels totally different. So this is typically my weaker ankle, weaker calf. And I can feel muscles all the way up the back of my leg, just having my big toe slightly elevated. And I'm going to see about what happens if I lean a little bit forward. So basically, I'm lengthening all that fascia on the bottom of my foot up into my ankle calf. Now let's see, can I do this side? Oh yeah, toes stay down. This one's harder. Yep, my brain is really having to work to do this one. Toes stay down, except your big toe lifts off. Ooh, it's so funny how much harder it is on this side. There we go. Now my brain's figuring it out. So I'm mushing into my big toe knuckle. All four toes stay down, and I'm just lifting my big toe. It's hard. So you could have your feet flat on the floor and just lift your big toe. Yep. Oh, it's so weird. Okay, take a little walk. We did our roll out the feet. We did lift the big toe, which you could, of course, do each toe at one at a time. Yeah. You can always come and sit back down for any of these. I think I'm going to stay standing for our short foot. Has anybody never done short foot with me? Does this sound like a new exercise? Okay. I like this one standing because it's weight bearing, but you could do this seated as well. So what I'm going to do is spread out my toes, but I'm just going to stay standing to show. It doesn't look like much. So I'm going to do my best to describe it with you just listening to the sound of my voice because it's really not much to see. Let your arches completely relax and totally relax and fall down. Let your toes totally relax. See if you can keep your toes extended and flat. Lift up on your arches. So I'm doing it right now. I've pulled up on my arches. I'm doing my best to keep my toes flat and spread out. When I do that, I can feel muscles all the way up into my legs and hips go, whoop, and then totally relax. Spread your toes out. Keep them spread out. Think of shortening your foot from the front of your foot to the back of your foot. So I'm not doing bird on a twig, which is a good thing to do. I'm doing relax my arch, lift my arch. Can you see it? It's pretty subtle. Relax my arch, lift my arch. You could try one foot at a time. Toes stay relaxed. Arch lifts up. So Leslie was talking about earlier, the arch support. This is a way for you to develop those muscles in your foot so that you've built up that arch. Even if I have people, oh, I got flat feet, I have fallen arches. Yeah, we all have a different shaped foot. So you could take a picture of everybody's feet and somebody's going to have a super high arch. One next person might have a super flat arch. So your foot shape varies, but we all have the ability to strengthen and organize these muscles. Okay, take a little rest break. If you're seated, you can stay seated and just relax your feet for a second. If you're upright, you could take a little walk and notice what you notice. So we've done quite a bit of stuff for our feet. Let's see if I can get to everything on my list. Oh, I hope so. Okay, I'm going to stay standing and show you calf raise and toe raises, and then I'll show you a seated version as well, because I think the seated version actually is valuable, but since I'm standing. We did this with weights this morning in our bar class, so you could definitely load this. You could hold a heavy weight in front of you or out to the side. If your balance is like, a little squirrely today, come and stand against your wall or have a little piece of furniture or something handy so that you don't have to worry so much about this being a balance exercise. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to spread my toes, organize everything here in my center, and see if I can't float my heels up off the ground. Yep. And then notice where your ankles end up. Did they kind of go to the side? Did they go straight up the middle? And we're just going to do 5 of these. I'm not trying to make this into a big deal like exercise class. This is more of an exploration of movement. What do you notice when you go up on your tippy toes? Can you keep your toes really relaxed, or do they go ink and curl up? Yeah, we'll do one more of these guys. If you did want to make this into a balance exercise, you could take your hands off. Ooh. You could try looking left or right. Oh, that's hard to do. Yeah, I'm going to sit back down and show. So this is an exercise that I've been doing myself, and I've been doing with some of my ladies as a strength exercise. I could hold weights on my lap. I could hold hand weights. I could hold, let's see, if you got a dog that weighs 30 pounds, you could hold your dog bag of groceries. And then the same idea, spread your toes, lift your heels, and lower. So if you don't have weights handy, you could even just push into your legs. And then notice as I'm doing this, either seated or standing, does it again, most people will have a tendency, if their ankle's going to do something weird, is to roll out to the side. So I'll often think, smush that big toe knuckle. And when I really think about that, ooh, I can feel my calf muscles working. Yep. So we want good strength in these lower leg muscles and mobility. Okay, so that was your seated and standing calf raise. The opposite of that, you could do lifting and lowering your toes. So let's try again. If you're standing, you can stay standing. If you're seated, you can stay seated. See if you can leave most of your foot on the ground and just lift your little toes. What does that feel like? And this one too, you could do 1 foot at a time. I'm showing both feet. So I'm noticing I have these 2 toes that kind of get a little sticky and they don't really move. Oh, my pinky toe, sometimes he's a little less cooperative. The ones on my right foot, I can really easily lift my toes and spread them apart. So that's interesting to notice, left and right feet. Now, can you lift your whole foot? So my heel is down, but it's like I'm trying to show the whole bottom side of my foot to y'all. Lift and lower and lift and lower. And again, we're not doing this as like a reps or an exercise thing. We're just doing it as a little experiment going, how much control do I have over these muscles in my ankle to lift my toes, maybe just the toes, or maybe lifting my whole foot. So that requires flexibility and strength for these muscles in the front of your shin. Take another little rest break. Take a walk, sit down, lay down, whatever you want to do. To rest, get a sip of water. Okay, I forgot about this one I wanted to do on the wall, so I'm just going to put my mat over here. This is another surprisingly challenging variation on this move. I think you'll be able to see me way back here in the screen. Yeah. Okay, so I like to have a little padding under my heel, so I have kind of a thick yoga mat. I'm doing the same exact thing now, but I'm leaning against the wall. So I could do just my toes. I could do lift my whole foot. And again, maybe like 5 of these guys. Lifting and lowering. And lifting and lowering. Is that easy or challenging? So my legs are pretty straight. My shoulders and hips are on the wall. And I'm doing this, lifting and lowering, either one or both, all 10 toes or just 1 foot. So I'm basically doing this area with my back on the wall, lifting and lowering my foot. And what I feel when I do that, these muscles down my shin are working. Yeah. Okay. We're done with that one. That's enough of that. What else did we have? I want to make sure we got time for stretches. So I'm hoping to go another 6 minutes. And then I'll check in with y'all and see how we're doing. Let me double check my list and make sure I don't forget nothing. Oh yeah, let's do a little band stuff. And then we'll do a little stretchy. So what am I going to do for this one? I think I'm going to come to the floor, all the way to the floor, but you could still stay seated in your chair if that is your preference. So if you have a towel or a theraband, grab it up. And nope, I changed my mind. I'm going to do this. No, I am going to stay on the floor. Sorry. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. I am going to come down here because I want to anchor my big toe. So I'm kind of doing a big toe focus and a spread your toes focus for this particular class today. If you're comfortable how I am, I'm kneeling on the floor. If that doesn't feel good today, have a seat on your couch or in your chair. But what I'm doing is I've scooped my big toe, wrapped my band around my big toe. Yeah. And then I'm going to see if I can really gently anchor the band with my hand and pull my big toe in towards the midline using my foot muscles. So I'm sliding my toe and then pulling it back out really gently. Okay, so I've anchored my big toe. Let me show you what I'm doing with my hand. I've anchored my big toe with the band. My foot is on the ground. This is my imaginary big toe. And then I'm pulling my big toe in and pulling out. Yeah. So you could do that in many ways. You could do tap your big toe. Let's go some on the other side. Just a couple of these guys. So I anchored my big toe. I'm pulling not the rest of my toes in, but I'm trying to slide my big toe. This one is, of course, my harder side. And then as I slide out, I'm giving just a little anchor with my hand. Big toe slides in and out. Yeah, see, so this one's totally different. It really does not want to cooperate with this action. So this is something I should be doing with that big toe. So I'm doing squeeze my toes together, gentle pull, really gentle with the band. Pull in and separate, pull in and separate. Okay, let's do a little calf stretch. Seated, you could sit in the chair and just slide one leg back if you want to stay seated. You could come up to standing and do a little lungy, just like I'm doing, with both feet pointing straight ahead. Or you could come to the wall if you have a wall handy and come into this lunge position. And by lunge, I mean my front knee is bent. My back heel is on the ground. I'll show from the side. Back heel on the ground. And you can have a little space between your feet. I am trying to get that heel down. And then option 2, you could soften your back knee. You could bend and straighten. I feel big old stretch all the way up my calf. And then again, you could be seated on this one. You could tuck your foot under the chair. I'm just going to roll onto the top of my foot. So if you haven't done this before, if you haven't done this in a while, go real easy. And you can play with how far back to have your foot. I could have it kind of far behind me. I could have it close underneath me. So I've got my toenails on the floor. I rolled onto the top of my foot and I'm bearing a little weight down. So easy does it. If this isn't something you do a lot, go real easy because this might be a weird sensation if you have a lot of tightness in the front of your ankle and the top of your foot. Okay, let's do that whole thing on the other foot. Take a little rest break. Take a little walk. Shake out your feet. We got side number 2, calf stretch. So if my foot is turned out, I'll get a little different stretch than if my toes are facing straight ahead. It's kind of hard to tell what I'm doing when I'm facing to the side, so I'll show from the back. So we have basically followed our Ross protocol today. We started with some good release work. I'd call that short foot exercise, your organization. We did a bunch of strength. Can you wiggle your toes? Can you pull your big toe? And now we're doing some nice stretching. Yeah, good stretching. And then you can roll onto the top of this foot. You can't see my foot now. Yep, this might feel good to bear some weight on that ankle. If you're new to this move, just lightly rest the top of your foot or your toes. And then you could play with this, leaning forward, leaning back. So again, nothing we do should hurt. It might feel like, oh, that's an interesting sensation and a move I don't do often. That's okay. But if you're like, this sucks, stop, rest. We're coming on to something else after a while. Okay, it's 12:15. I think I got to everything on our list. We often do the theraband foot stretch in our classes. So I was trying to come up with stuff today that we don't do on a regular basis. So that football thing we do a lot. I'm trying to respect everybody's time too. Does anybody need to be done right now, like walking out the door next 10 seconds? Or do we want to do more stuff? How are you feeling? The last thing on my list would be a theraband stretch, and I could show you some foot goodies that I have here.
I'm going to take off. Thank you.
You're done? Yeah, if you need to take off, Boogie, see you later.
All right.
If you want to stick around and do a little theraband stuff,
Staying on.
yeah, we'll spend like 2 minutes doing our stuff. Okay, so this one, I am going to come onto the ground and show either seated, and again, you could be seated on the couch. You could put the band on the bottom of your foot. I'm going to do this one laying on my back, and you might even be able to get it up over your little toesies and the ball of your foot. So, man, that's a big, intense stretch for the bottom of my foot. If that feels like too much, come back here to the middle of your arch and do this little stretch. So this is basically a hamstring stretch, but I can feel the bottom of my foot, the bottom of my toes. The other way to do this is kind of fun, is to put your heel on the band and anchor it, and then pull your toes back like so. And then this would be more of a strength exercise, but if you had the band across your toes or the bottom of your foot, you could do your little circle-y, flex and extend. Yep, and then switch and do the other side. All right, I'll show you some of my goodies while you're doing side number 2, and then I'll turn y'all loose. And then we've got this recording, so you can always go back to it. I keep all this stuff because I used to do these classes pretty often. These correct toes, I've got a bunch of these here. I've got 3 packs left. These guys I wear, where's mine that are loose out of the package? I wear them sort of intermittently, but what you do is you put them in between your toes. So I love these guys because this pair I've had for like 15 years. There's medical grade silicone, so you can wash them off with dish soap. As long as you don't lose one. I had a client that lost one of them. He's like, what do I do now? I'm like, I guess you buy another pair. But anyway, they're basically indestructible. And this is what it looks like when you're wearing them. So it's a toe separator. And this is part of my campaign, right? Is spreading your toes. So that helps you do that. And then what else? If you have like a lot of this, you can get at a drugstore. Like I think I got these at either Bi-Mart or Walgreens, these little toe separators. So these are really good if you just have one toe that kind of curls under and you just need a little something in between your toes. This is another variation if you've got a corn or something that's painful. Sometimes this is a good temporary solution just to support and bandage that little area. These, again, all from the drugstore. Metatarsal pads, ball of your foot pad. And then this moleskin is a really nice padding. So if you went on a big hike and you just rub something raw, or you've got a little spot that's kind of a temporary thing that's like something's bugging you, sometimes just having a little padding, a little something is enough to get you into the next, right, until it's feeling better. If you had a long-term, long-standing foot issue, go to a podiatrist. Go see your medical professional, right? This is not doing Ann's theraband exercise, right? But if you're suffering from like, oh, my feet are a little weak or tight, or some of these things we did today were challenging for me, this is a good protocol that you could then take apart and do a piece and a piece and a piece. So something a little bit each day. Who wants to volunteer? Which of these moves did you love? Was there anything you hated? Was there anything you were like, I never want to do that again, or I want to do X thing every day? The tub bath, you could do a foot bath every day.
I loved it all. I loved it all. I already was doing the fingers between the toes. I started a month or two ago because I realized I had no mobility with all the swelling that had been going on. But now you've kind of reinforced that it's okay. I mean, it's safe. And even though I'm having some pain, blood is rushing to the area. I can tell it's healing and it's, anyway, it was all of this was great.
Yay! Yes, improved circulation, improved mobility, pain relief. That's what we're going for with this stuff. Anybody else?
I like the pinching and pulling toes. That felt good. Not something I use. I do fingers and the spreading stuff regularly too, but that was nice.
Yay!
I'll do more of that.
Awesome. All right. I appreciate you. Thank you for spending your Saturday with me doing some foot things. Thank you for taking good care of you. And I'll see you soon.